Hey guys, so today, before you all do your independent reading, hopefully you are watching this lesson first to see what you'll be doing for your reading response today. So remember, after you guys watch the Edward Tulane read aloud and you respond to the questions on the Padlet, the next step is to do this lesson and to read your own books. So today, what I want us to talk about as you all get into reading your own stories and writing about your reading is we want to talk about how readers dig deeper as they write about their reading. So here I have a chart that I wanted to show with you guys. I want you to think about how writers can really improve their writing. This week, instead of us having a separate lesson for the writing and for the reading, I have combined them together because I want our focus to really be on how can we improve our writing when we talk about our reading. So let's take a look at these three ways we can see these sentences look. So we want to make our writing better by digging deeper. If you take a look at this first sentence here, it says, I like my dog, she's fun. That's a good sentence, right? It's complete, it has a capital letter at the beginning of the sentence, it has end punctuation. But when I think about that sentence, it could be a little bit better. Let's look at the next sentence to see how is that sentence better. I like my dog Brit. She is so silly when she chases her tail. So why is that sentence better than the first one? Well, I can see one, it now has a name. So instead of saying I like my dog, it's actually giving the dog a name. I like my dog Brit. And then here, instead of just saying she's fun, it gives an example of how she's fun. She's so silly when she chases her tail. That sentence is so much better because it has the characters' names, and then it doesn't just give an idea, but it gives an idea and then it gives an example that explains that idea, almost like what we do in our essay writing. Now, when we look at that third sentence, whoa, that sentence is so much deeper than the first two. Let's read that one and see how is that one much deeper. I like my brown and black dog Brit. She makes me laugh so much when I watch her try to catch her tiny tail. She spins so fast, but cannot ever get it. Now that sentence still had the characters' names. It still gave an example, right, chasing the tail, but it was better because it gave really specific details. Details like the dog's color, details like what it would look like. We want to do the same thing in our writing. So I want us to look at, I have 3 sticky notes here that reflect 3 different things that I've actually seen as I look at your writing about reading. Let's look at the first one. My character is angry at them. Do you know who I'm talking about? Probably not, right? That sentence, it has a capital letter at the beginning, it has end punctuation, but there's a lot of things that could be much better with that. It doesn't give you enough information to really understand what I'm talking about. Now, sometimes when I look at your writing about reading on your sticky notes, I have no clue what you're talking about because there's no characters' names. I am not reading the same story as you guys, so I really need you all to provide that information for me of who are your characters' names, and not just your main character, but the other characters, and then including details about them. So from my first sticky note, I know that you guys do not have enough information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reread the part of the read aloud that we actually read today. So hopefully you have already watched that read aloud. If not, pause this video now, go and watch it and answer those questions, then come back to this because I don't want to give away what happens. The birds were insistent. They flew around his head. They tugged at the loose threads in his sweater. One large crow in particular would not leave the rabbit alone. He perched on the pole and screamed a dark message in Edward's left ear. Caw, 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 without ceasing. As the sun rose higher and shone meaner and brighter, Edward became somewhat dazed. He mistook the large crow for Pellegrina. Go ahead, he thought. Turn me into a warthog if you want. I don't care. I'm done with caring. Caw, caw, said the Pellegrina crow. Finally, the sun set and the birds flew away. Edward hung by his velvet ears and looked up at the night sky. He saw the stars, but for the first time in his life, he looked at them and felt no comfort. Instead, he felt mocked. So now that you guys see where my idea came from today, now it should be making more sense for you all. But again, I can't do that same thing with you all. I can't read your stories. So it's going to be really important that you guys include those details as you write about your reading. So now, take a look at my second sentence I have. Edward is angry at the crows because he thinks they're Pellegrina. Now we know it's better because one, I have characters' names now. That's important. Also, I know it's better because not only am I saying that Edward's angry at the crows, I'm giving a reason why. So right now, that sentence is twice as good as that first one. Now, if we look at the third one, I want you to be able to see what's better about my third sticky note. Edward is angry at the crows pecking at his head because he thinks they are Pellegrina. The crows caw at him non-stop. Every time he gets lost and is left alone, he yells at Pellegrina because he thinks this is her fault. So I know this one is better because it includes the characters' names just as I did before. It has my examples from the text, but not only do I give an example from the text, but I also give specific details. Like when I said that they're pecking at his head, or when I talk about how they crow at him nonstop. So that third sticky note, or that third sentence about my reading is so much stronger because of the detail, the specific ones that I've added. Now today what you guys are going to be doing is you're going to be reading your own chapter book for 15 to 30 minutes, just like we do every day, right? After you do your independent reading, then this is time for the writing. For your writing lesson today, I want you to write one sticky note about your reading. Now, let's look at this together. What ideas are following you throughout the story? What are you thinking in this part of your story that connects to an earlier part? Don't just retell what has happened. Write about how this part connects to an earlier part in the story. So what you see here on my sticky note is what was my best one from last time, right? I have those details about the crows pecking at his head. I also have the details about how the crows are cawing at him nonstop. But I also want to make sure that I'm not just retelling, because I want you to choose a part today as you're reading, something that just kind of stands out to you. And what are you thinking about that part? How does that part connect to earlier? So one way that writers do that is they use sentence starters like, this makes me think, this makes me wonder, I used to think, but now I realize, or in the text, this connects to earlier when. So here I have my sticky note. I want to use the thought prompt to push my thinking. So once you have written down what's happened in your story so far, make sure that it's not just retelling. You're adding in your thinking. So let me see how I can do that now. Edward is angry at the crows pecking at his head. So maybe I can say, I'm going to use this last one here. In the text, Edward is angry at the crows pecking at his head because he thinks they are Pellegrina. The crows caw at him non-stop. Now, I can add in this next part. This connects to earlier when, so that I can make sure that this is my thinking. This connects to earlier when every time he gets lost and is left alone, he yells at Pellegrina because he thinks this is all her fault. Now, I think so far that looks a lot better, but I still want to maybe push myself to include more of my thinking because he thinks this is all her fault. He seems to always think of Pellegrina whenever something bad happens to him. Maybe he thinks about her because she told him, "You disappoint me." All right, so do you guys see here how I added in specific details from the story? What was happening in the text that really stood out to me? But then I did not just stop there. I had to make sure I included my thinking. And the way that I did that is I used some of these sentence starters. I'll highlight them here so you guys can see. In the text, that's showing my text evidence. This connects to earlier when. So now you don't have to use those same ones as me, but you definitely could. So today, again, remember, the reading and writing is going to be kind of combined today because I really want us to focus on how do we write about our reading. Today, I want you guys to focus on writing deeply about your reading, not leaving out characters' names or important details. And also, make sure that you write, why is this an important moment? How does this connect to an earlier part? I want to see what you're thinking about this is.